Good evening, everybody, and welcome back to another video. I thought I would record just some thoughts in the middle of the night because my strange sleep patterns today, especially today, didn't allow me to shoot some content earlier. So I decided that while I was out with my dog Duchess, that I would just record something at 20 minutes after midnight on Sunday morning. I think it's August 21st, 2022. I still have plus minus some congestion in my chest. It's not as bad as it was a few days ago when I shot the last video, but nevertheless, it's still there. Still have the persistent cough. Still have the off and on headaches, the nausea, and a few other things that come with the side of COVID. But nevertheless, I am recovering, and I'm definitely better now than I was 5 or 6 hours ago. So I've been kind of distant from life as a whole. Distant from work, distant from, my family. Haven't really gone anywhere in a few weeks to do anything. And you guys know that I live by the motto that you're not living life if you're not learning something, at least one new thing every day. And unfortunately for me, it's probably been a week or so since I've learned something new. So I think for me, I'm going to get back into the swing of things this week. It's been a little rough, but nevertheless, I'm trying to walk more, spend more time outside. It's actually really pretty out here. I think this is one of the few times that I actually stopped and take a look at the stars. There's quite a few. I know the camera's not picking them up, but it's a really pretty, almost zen, environment. I am at the tail end of my backyard because there is a light here that the city put in. For what reason, I don't know, because it literally just lights up grass. But what's nice about it is you get to actually see the deer walk through here. And the deer were here until they saw the dog, and I've never seen them jump higher to get out of harm's way, even though we all know that if a deer really wanted to, they would take my dog out for breakfast. Anywho, it's really nice out here. I want to say it's about 77 degrees. Actually, I can check that out. It is 75 degrees and about 55% humidity. It's actually really comfortable out here, and it's a really nice evening to have the dog out and walk around and enjoy the peace. I don't know if you guys can hear the insects and stuff in the background. You don't typically get that in Los Angeles, but I will tell you, this is nice. The one thing you do have to be careful with around here is, all the stuff that's, living in the grass and in the trees. So that's why I picked the yard to kind of walk around in and let her do her thing and me get some steps in, a little bit of movement just to exercise the old legs. But COVID, I tell you, it's been a disaster. I will say that. Now, I've had COVID a few times. Once I didn't even know I had it. It was kind of, it came and went within a week, and I think the only thing I had from it was kind of a runny nose. And even then, I didn't get congested or anything. So, the first time was before the pandemic actually started. We had all the symptoms, and then by the time the test came around there was no way to know, but we had all the symptoms and we got pretty messed up in LA. I guess furthermore, you know, I guess the point of this is you gotta do what you gotta do to just take care of your health. You know, things are easily taken for granted, especially your health. But I'm noticing that the older I get, the harder things are to overcome. So, you know, everything from physical pain, joint pain, muscle pain, even a simple cut, like a paper cut, used to take a few days to heal. Now it can take a few weeks to heal. It'll close up pretty quickly, but then the wound itself remains for a while. Whereas, you know, 20 years ago, a paper cut, I'd forget about it in 3 or 4 days because it would go away. But it is what it is. I guess with age, things slow down, the body slows down. And I'm not saying I'm old, you know, I turned 40 this year. But I think there's a lot of things that I take for granted, and I think my health is one of them. And I've always used my health as an excuse. You know, I guess more of a scapegoat than an excuse, because when I get stressed out, or if things go wrong, or life takes a turn for the worse for whatever reason, I always feel like it's easiest for me to blame stress and, you know, whatever that makes my health go the other way. For those who've followed me the first year of COVID, I lost a lot of weight. I lost just under 100 pounds in 1 year, which for me was a remarkable undertaking. But at the same time, it was a feat that I accomplished with very minimal regret, or even just output. It didn't take much for me to do that. So my body is capable of obviously recomposing itself and repairing whatever damage whatever I've done to it in terms of eating incorrectly, or just pounding it with whatever excuse I had at the moment, whether it was, oh, I'm stressed out, I'm gonna eat junk food for a week, or, oh, you know, my day at work's been bad, so let me go have, you know, a dozen cheeseburgers or whatever. I will say that I think a lot of that is my downfall. It takes a lot to, you know, admit there's something wrong. And then it takes even more to get on the right path to resolve whatever issue, you know, you have, whether it's stress, whether it's, you know, home life induced or work life induced or whatever. Now, for the last 6 months, I've obviously gone through a few things. For one thing, I'm standing in a green pasture, which didn't exist in Los Angeles. So moving across the country was absolutely one of the biggest stresses I've ever experienced in my life. You know, there were a ton of unknowns, and still are. You know, we're still in the process of selling our house in LA. Our agent is just having such a hard time finding the right buyers and getting the right offers, that the house is just sitting empty, and it has been sitting empty since Father's Day, or before Father's Day when we drove out here. So, you know, that's obviously still a stress that we're dealing with, but, you know, we're trying to move forward. I got established out here, which wasn't an easy feat. I was able to take my jobs from LA with me. I was able to leave my company there. So 6 Foot Networks is actually operating in Los Angeles, with its chief executive being 2,300 miles away as the crow flies. So it's definitely one of those things that keeps you up at night, because you always wonder, you know, is your business going to survive this? Is your family going to survive this? You know, you gotta worry about 2 houses instead of 1 because the old one's not selling. Fortunately, I will say this: the cost of living in this area is probably about, I would say 30% of what it was. So I'm down probably between 60 and 65% of expenses just by crossing the state line. Our savings have started rebounding. You know, we've been able to do a lot of projects around the house. I know I showed you guys like the fence removal and, you know, a lot of work that's been happening. You know, we had to service 2 air conditioning units, basically from the ground up, and trying to think of what else. You know, we're now looking at laying down some concrete for the driveway because it's crushed rock, which is nice, but it's a pain, you know, when you're dealing with carrying groceries and then your feet just sink into the ground because you have, you know, an extra 50 pounds of weight and the rocks are just kind of sliding out from under you. More of a safety issue than anything else. Also, it hurts the dog's paws, and kid gets wiped out, and next thing you know, you have surgery to complete on his arms or elbows or whatever because he wasn't paying attention. But be that as it is, we're finally able to afford the kind of stuff that, you know, we've always wanted to do. You know, and the fact that we have this massive, I mean, for us, it's massive. This property is huge because our last backyard had 12 feet to the pool, and then from the pool to the back wall had 8 feet. So we had total walkable distance from the patio door to the pool was 12 feet, and then on the other side of the pool to the retaining wall where the dirt was, that was 8 feet. So we had a total of 20 feet. Here, I think we have 40 yards from the wall of the house to the city managed fence that's down here. And I think it's incredible. I think there's a lot of potential for this land. I think there's going to be, you know, some stuff happening. Right now, it's just an open, like I mentioned earlier, it's an open pasture. But even this area behind me, which is open, has a lot of nice trees. Like you can see a trunk right here. And I think that I'd like to do that, something like that over here too, where we have some decent trees, you know, no fences, leave it open. We might put some stakes in to line out property lines. But I'm also going to get a surveyor to basically, you know, mark everything out so that way we know what's ours and everybody else around us knows what's ours. And, you know, now we can worry about projects in the future to better our home. You know, this is our home. You know, I know you can't see it, but it's standing there. And it's definitely a very, very massive step up from where we came from. You know, for those who don't know, I moved out to LA in 2005 to essentially further my career as an IT engineer. At the time, I was working for Hilton Hotels as kind of a de facto go-to IT guy that would spend his days running around a building, fixing wireless access points and switches and weird token ring infrastructures at the time that kind of made stuff boring day by day. And I wanted to be more than just the guy that did break fix. And so moving out to LA was, I guess, the first big step that I took towards solidifying my career as an IT guy. And I stuck with it. You know, it was a tough run. Especially in the beginning, I was doing, you know, everything from answering phones to break fix to just stuff that I absolutely hated. I realized early on that I am no good over the phone. In fact, now I don't even offer phone support because it doesn't work. Calling a help desk is such a waste of time because they'll open a ticket and they'll have to research it anyway, and then you end up closing the ticket out via email anyway. And actually for me, email is a better way to go because at least the whole thread is there. You can take the time to write out, okay, all the issues. What's all the issue? What are all the issues that are happening, and what can you do with those issues? And how do you isolate the problem, resolve the problem, test the problem, and then make sure that, everybody's satisfied. Can't do that in a phone call. So I got rid of that job really quick. Well, by really quick, I think it was 2 years of my life that kind of dwindled down the toilet during that time. But hey, it paid the rent at the time, which I will tell you was $1 a square foot at that time. By the time I finished paying rent, it was $6 a square foot. And you can figure that out, that it was not cheap to live in LA. And then by the time I got married, had kids, and all of life's expenses came to play, rent was no longer an issue. Life overtook that by a factor of 10 or 12 or whatever it was. But be that as it is, a decision was made to buy a home because I knew very well early on that there was no way that I was going to be able to leave Los Angeles and buy another house without having some equity in a property. And we purchased a home. The last home we lived in was just under $600,000, and it's now listed for $750,000 because of inflation and whatnot. And we did a lot of investing in that house. We took a lot of pride and effort, and we renovated a lot of it. We fixed a lot of stuff that was broken. We had some pipes burst, which forced us into a renovation. A lot of stuff, went from, A to Z really quickly. And we lived in that place for 3 years. So the last 3 years were ultimately the deciding factor on how long we would live in that spot and how long it would take for us to get from where we were to where we needed to be. So that's essentially where our path led us, which is, right here. And it's kind of tough to really explain everything, how things went and how things are going now. But I will tell you that we saved a ton of money by making the decision to move into a more relaxed place. I forgot what traffic was like in LA. I talked to a buddy of mine last week. I talked to a buddy of mine who's still in LA, and ironically, when I called him, he was in his car parked on the freeway, and I forgot what that was like. Hang on, I just walked through a group of bugs. Oh, sorry. But it was just kind of funny because I had forgotten that traffic's a thing anymore. We have absolutely no traffic. In fact, I think one of the things we do have here is peace and quiet. And for us, it's, exactly what we needed. There was absolutely no comparing what we have now to what we had before. We have so much more just tranquility, being able to sit in our backyard and enjoy the mornings. I know I posted you know, a picture of the sunrise the other day. That's what we see every day, you know. Over there, we didn't see sunrises or sunsets because of smog or whatever. So, long story short, I think being able to come out here and look at the stars and walk the pup a little bit and get her moving and, you know, eat a few bugs, you know, is probably the best way to slow down after years of pounding the sand for, you know, many employers. Over the course of 17 years, I had 12 employers, and literally a lot of those, I'd say 10 of those, I had to leave just to, you know, meet the needs of inflation, because they refused to give us annual raises, or there were no opportunities for, you know, bonuses or advancements or any of that, or no education budgets, therefore no certifications or no training or no anything. And if you're an IT guy watching this, if you don't have certifications, that means you have no credibility in the industry, which is, you know, I might say probably the biggest detriment to your career. Employers don't really look at degrees. I know when I started my company, every engineer that I hire, I don't care what they did in college. I don't even care that they went to college. If you're a high school graduate and you took training seriously and you got a decent set of qualifications through certifications program, then I will consider you probably a lot more than I would, you know, somebody who's got a master's in IT. Because here's the thing, in order to get certifications, you need hands-on experience. You need the training that you get by actually doing. You're not going to get that out of a textbook. You're not going to get that out of a crash course. And personally, for me, I will share that I have an associate's degree. I ran out of money during my college days to go get my bachelor's degree. Ran out of money, and it became pretty certain that I wasn't going to be able to raise that money through loans. And honestly, I didn't want any more loans than I already had. I mean, I was a kid with $100,000 in debt, and I had no real property, no nothing, no leverage. In fact, I didn't even have a job at the time. So, you know, the way this country views, you know, college as a must-have for a good job, that's just not the case. You know, I mean, if you look at what I do every day, and, you know, I'll share this last point, you know, to kind of solidify this point. With an associate's degree, I have a pretty decent level of position, I guess you would say, with NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory. In fact, I have established myself as a fundamental, I guess, fundamental component of the team that I work in, that I was able to do this move to where I work in my office, which you see the light on up here, that's my office. I do it every day from 2,300 miles away, because they know that what I do physically is more important than what was written on a piece of paper that may or may not have happened 20 years ago, which wasn't much. So, and I also didn't go to some prestigious university either. So, but, you know, I keep telling my child that if he wants to do whatever he wants to do, he's got to find the path for that particular career. If it requires 4 years, 8 years of schooling, then be prepared for that. But if he's not interested in schooling, then he needs to prepare for that idea too, because there is only a certain set of jobs in corporate America that will be satisfied by a specific piece of document that may or may not be relevant in the world today. If you don't believe me, look at all the TED Talks that Mike Rowe has given about trade and, you know, plumbers, electricians, welders, steel workers, whatever. You know, it's those jobs that are the most important to keep this country going. I mean, do you think that there are PhDs building bridges? Or, you know, yeah, whatever. The point is that you got to do what you got to do. And I think I've rambled on enough. I've taken 25 minutes of your time. And it's now time for me to get my doggie to bed, because she's over here kind of sad and depressed that she's not in the warmth of her bed. But until next time, have a good evening. Sleep well. Thank you for watching.